this is Victor, or as you know me, Victor Johnston, or Sloth from RunRunnerGames.com, doing another deck tech. And today, I know it's a pretty brainless type of deck that you would do. It's mono red, but it's big red, and we're splash of white for some pretty vital parts with the metagame shifting into a mid-range type of situation. And it does have some early game threats, but that's kind of, I mean, that's cool and all, but you're really going to see it start shining in the late game. If we can take a look at the cards now. Obviously, you've got the Monastery Swift Spear. Now, I really like the Swift Spear, but it shines when you start doing stuff like Magma Jet, right here in the 2-drop slot. Chain to the Rocks on turn 2 and 3 is great. And it really complements Valley Dasher. Basically, if you can go turn 1 Swift Spear, turn 2 Valley Dasher, and then turn 3 go into this awesome card right here that I completely undervalued, Hall of Triumph. You're doing 10 damage within the first 3 turns, and if your opponent's playing a bunch of tapped lands, it's basically going to be lights out for them because they can't recover from that. You also, obviously, like I said, you've got Chain to the Rocks right here. I've got 3 in the main board, 1 in the side. This is really good when you're playing against mono green. Any type of mono green mid range right now is just insane when they get their blockers out and you can't beat them, especially because we have flyers in the late game, and it's really tough to get past that Arbor Colossus. The Magma Jet right here, not only does it do 2 damage, which is vital, which is good, you've got the Scry, and it's really tough because the amount of lands I'm running in this deck, I'm curving out at 5, but I'm running 22 lands, and this Scry ability helps you hit your land drops, and like I said, it does the vital part of the damage. We're playing red, so we're going to play Lightning Strikes. I don't even need to talk about that in depth. It stops right there. Also, another card, we're playing red, so we're going to play Rabble Master. There's no questions about that whatsoever. Stoke the Flames is an insane card that I undervalued when I saw it come out, but then I thought about it, and I realized you're playing red, you're playing creatures, you're doing damage. Insane card. This one underperforms for me for a little bit, and we'll talk about the options of what you can do. Instead of 1 Chandra that I have down here, you can play 2 Chandras and a single Ash Cloud Phoenix. You could play, put a land in its place, and then just put it over here, and you can have another Chain to the Rocks. Or you could just play 2 Flame Wreath Phoenix, which we were talking about it before we did the deck tech. You can get a 3/3 with haste that goes back to your hand, or you'll get a 5/5 for 4. And all of these are viable, good options. Chandra, if you can ult Chandra and get Stoke the Flames, your opponent's going to lose. That's basically the only way for me to put it. I've only had it happen once. If they survive, you just got a really bad draw. And obviously, you've got the game enders right here. Stormbreath Dragon, we're running 4 of this guy, and 3 Sarkhan, the Dragon Speakers. Sarkhan's an indestructible creature when he becomes that dragon with haste, and he's just really hard to stop unless he gets exiled. The mana base is basically very, very simple. You've got 4 Battlefield Forges and 4 Temple of Triumphs. The Scry is actually incredible. And you can go ahead and show them all those beautiful mountains that I don't like, but they're still full art. And it's a very simple, very, very simple mana base. And you can look at the deck and you can tell it basically is just built to do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. And if you're playing against control, they'll get out that Perilous Vault, and by the time they get out the vault, you should be going into the end phase of your deck. And we can go ahead and move over to the sideboard. Right here, you've got that other Chain to the Rocks, which I said it moves aside those blockers for mono green. You've got Harnessed by Force, which is great because you can grab people's Polucranoses, you can grab their Stormbreath Dragons if you're that late in the game. Sometimes it'll just be that final push with some odd creature. We've got 1 Searing Blood because the only problem this deck has is dealing with the early aggro because you're also trying to trade with them in the early game. So you'll want to side out your little guys for Anger of the Gods, Magma Sprays, this Searing Blood, and then also Faded Conflagration. I have it in there because it gets rid of the majority of Planeswalkers when you get to drop it off, but sometimes you really do need to use it against other people's creatures like the Stormbreath Dragon. That's really, like I said before, all of these cards are basically just here to do as much damage in the shortest time possible, and I think it works very well for the metagame right now because we have a lot of control decks that are just super slow, and we have a lot of mid-range decks that are just super slow, that are just scrying through their lands really quick. And you know, that's that. The one card that I forgot, this card's a bomb. This card needs to be run in the main board sometimes, depending on your local metagame. Erase gets Courser of Kruphix, it gets Chain to the Rocks, it gets what else is it? It gets the Unsoul Artifact deck.
Spiteful Return.
Spiteful Return. It gets all of these amazing things, and it's just 1 white instant. The only other option that I left out of here, that I took out of the main deck because it was hurting me too much, is Eidolon with the Great Rebel. And he is also a really great choice, once again, depending on your meta, the meta in your local game store. Like I said, all of these are just great choices, but you have to gauge it on what you're going into. And I've built this deck basically thinking that I'm going into a major tournament, because we'll be playing in the Open in Richmond in just about, I think, 5 or 6 weeks. And the mainstay that I'm focused on is getting ready for that. But this was, I think it's Big Red Splash White with Victor Johnston from RunnerRunnerGames.com. Can't even say the name right because I got the salt up in my mouth because I was eating pretzels. But yes, thank you very much, and we will see you again next week with more deck techs.